Imagine walking through San Francisco in 1950. The air feels cool and damp, the kind of morning fog that blankets the city like a whisper. But what you don't know is that it's not just fog. It's a mist filled with millions of bacteria engineered and released by the U.S. military. And you're breathing it in.
In the San Francisco one, they were spraying pneumonia into the clouds.
Oh, good.
Right now, as you watch this video, how can you be sure your government isn't testing something on you?
I think they had the fog coming in, and they wanted to see if they could distribute a disease that way.
What if I told you that in the name of national security, the U.S. military conducted secret biological warfare experiments on its own citizens without their knowledge? And what if I told you one of those experiments may have killed an innocent man? This is the true story of Operation Sea Spray.
And so they spread a disease aerially to see how many people were infected.
A Cold War experiment that transformed the city of San Francisco into a massive, unauthorized laboratory.
The Army decided to do what was called a vulnerability test program. And the effort was over a period of 20 years, actually, between 1949 and 1969, when hundreds of tests were conducted over populated areas.
But San Francisco wasn't the only testing ground. Just months earlier, in April 1950, the military conducted a similar test off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia. Navy ships released clouds containing supposedly harmless bacteria into the air, hoping to understand how a coastal city like Norfolk might respond to a biological attack.
To see whether, by spraying germs and certain chemicals, whether they would endanger a large population. The Army did spray a lot of bacteria around, although they weren't the highly dangerous kind that would be used as an actual weapon. The bacteria that they used did have some health risks.
These tests were part of a series of secret operations to evaluate America's vulnerability, all done in silence. Operation Sea Spray came next in September 1950. America was on edge. The Cold War was heating up. The Korean War had just begun. And behind closed doors, the U.S. government feared that the next battlefield would be invisible, spread through the air.
What if the Soviets spread deadly bacteria over highly populated areas, or spray into the air invisible chemicals that can kill thousands on contact? A decision is made in high places. Tests are needed.
They needed real-world data, so instead of a lab, they chose a living, breathing city. From September 20th to 27th, U.S. Navy ships off the coast sprayed clouds of bacteria over San Francisco. The bacteria included Serratia marcescens, which produces a red pigment and is easy to trace.
The invisible attack would probably have gone undetected, but something goes terribly wrong.
Bacillus globigii, used as a stand-in for anthrax. They released an estimated 5,000 to 10,000 particles per cubic foot, affecting more than 800,000 residents, about 43% of the city's population.
Imagine, let's find out how we could be vulnerable to a bioweapon on our citizens, and to protect them, we will use a bioweapon on our citizens.
The military believed the bacteria were harmless, but that belief wasn't based on long-term human studies. It was a gamble. Within days, doctors at Stanford Hospital began seeing something strange.
The Serratia marcescens infection is so unusual to the doctors and scientists at the hospital that 3 of them team up and write a scientific article about it. At the time, the doctors are unaware of the tests the Army had conducted using the same type bacteria just days before.
New bacteria, cases they couldn't explain. One of those cases was Edward Nevin. He wasn't just a 75-year-old man. He was a devoted husband, a father of 7, and a grandfather. He had worked for decades as a pipe fitter in San Francisco. He had lived through both World Wars, the Great Depression, and saw his city rise through the 20th century. In the fall of 1950, he entered the hospital for a routine prostate surgery. He was recovering well until an infection set in.
I was 9 years old in 1950 when he died.
My mother was a nurse. She was actually helping to attend to him. And it was a terrible sickness. He was going from high fevers to chills. He had hallucinations. And so it was a very, very serious infection and fever that was causing all that in him.
It spread to his heart. Within weeks, he was dead. His family was stunned. There was no explanation until decades later. In the following year, at least 11 more infections were recorded.
A few days after, 11 people are admitted to the Stanford Medical Center in San Francisco. They are all suffering from a severe bacterial infection. One of the patients, Ed Nevin, dies.
The same bacteria, Serratia, was now being found in medical tools, in wounds, maybe even in water. And still, the public knew nothing.
The scientific article is published in October 1951 in the Journal of the American Medical Association, reaching a very limited readership. However, the Army does see the article, and a panel of 4 military scientists reviews the case.
Some months after, they concluded, and this is a very strange conclusion, that the Army's bacteria and the bacteria that caused the infections in the hospital were not of the same strain or the same nature, and that any relationship was apparently coincidental. That was a real stretch.
It takes 25 more years before the story finds its way out into the open.
It wasn't until 1976 that the truth finally came out. A wave of declassified military documents revealed that Operation Sea Spray had been real. And it wasn't alone.
I carried the morning paper on December 22nd, 1976 to the BART station. I was reading the front page and read with some interest because of my work as a trial lawyer. The front page told a story of testing that was done in 1950 in San Francisco. And I was surprised, but actually somewhat cynical as a trial lawyer. Nothing surprises me anymore was sort of my then 35-year-old attitude.
Between 1949 and 1969, the military had conducted 239 secret biological tests across the United States. They tested in New York subways, on school grounds, in poor neighborhoods, even on Navy personnel without their knowledge. In 1981, Nevin's family sued the federal government. They demanded accountability, but the courts ruled against them, saying there was no conclusive proof that the experiment caused his death. Despite the timing, despite the medical records, despite the government's own documents, no apology, no compensation, no one held responsible, and still, no justice.
The Honorable Judge Conte rules against Nevin on all counts. He concludes that the Army's decision to test falls within the discretionary function exception, which gives the United States government immunity from lawsuits on such matters.
To this day, no scientist or military officer has been charged. No institution has taken responsibility. And we still don't fully know how many people were affected. Do you think the scientists who conducted these tests should face criminal charges? Tell us why in the comments. Because if this could happen in San Francisco and Norfolk, where else might it have happened? History doesn't always come with a warning label. That's why we dig it up. Hit subscribe to uncover more classified experiments that may have happened in your city. And if you want to keep shedding light on the dark corners of history, like this video, share it, and help others understand what's been kept in the shadows. This isn't just a conspiracy theory. This is your past. And it might just explain your present.